What's up, ladies and gentlemen? The name of the show is Politics on My Mind, and I'm the host, Troy Griffith. Let's get the show started. It's going to be a good one.
All of you know who I am.
What's poppin', ladies and gentlemen? You're tuned into Politics on My Mind, and I am the host, Troy Griffith. This is episode 193. If you'd like to listen to the podcast wherever you get your podcast, you can do so on SoundCloud, Google Play, TuneIn, iTunes, YouTube. Just go into that search bar, type in Politics on My Mind, hit that subscribe button. If you would like to follow the podcast on Twitter, you can do so at POMM Podcast. And once again, that's on the Bluebird Twitter. You know what I mean? Today is Monday, December 21st, 2020, and I would like to welcome you to the only political podcast for the hip-hop generation. And once again, I always got to tell you about the website. The website is politicsonmymind.com, politics with the S on mymind.com. This is the last episode for the new, so this is the last episode of the new year. That's right. The next time we speak will be in 2021, January 11th, 2021. I want to thank all y'all for tuning in, but we'll get into that a little bit later. But let me just jump in and say, check this out. I always got to tell you all, COVID is real. Wear your mask, keep your distance, wash your hands, and all that good stuff. We got to stay healthy out here. To my black people, we got to stay healthy. To my brown people, we got to stay healthy. To my indigenous people, we got to stay healthy. Those three categories I just named, those three race I just named, they are, brown is not a race, but you get what I'm saying, right? We are dying at alarming rates from COVID, so let's take it real. As we all know, there's a vaccine out. They will be rolling out vaccinations, and Pfizer, Moderna, so on and so forth. Speak with a medical doctor. They're doing frontline workers first. The elderly, people 75 and over, they're doing them first. And, speak with your doctor. Do not speak with your barber, your mechanic, your neighbor, your homie that you grew up with, your homegirl that you used to kick it with. These are not the people to take medical advice from. You don't ever take any other medical advice from them. So why take this one? Just play it safe. Be safe. Wear your mask. Please wear your mask. Do not take this. I was watching, was it CNN I was watching, and the woman said she went to a birthday party. She said she shows social distance. She never mentioned a mask, right? But she said it took for her to get it before she took it seriously. Don't be that person. Please don't be. Just take it seriously. Just staying on the COVID topic, a lot of what I did not talk about this since the pandemic this year. I mentioned it briefly, and I'm kind of ashamed that I did not do my homework and look for it more often. But I saw AARP Bulletin. That's their newspaper that they send out, and then in their December 2020 issue, the cover of it is in an American tragedy: COVID-19 in nursing homes. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, I have not had a chance to read this actual one. I meant to get to it, and I'll be completely honest, I forgot until I was about to start the episode. The failure of nursing homes, the utter failure. It's like, I don't know, if I had a parent or a grandparent in a nursing home right now, I feel like I would have been going and get them if I was responsible for them, because once again, the failure of nursing homes, the lack of transparency, the hiding behind government regulations. And I get it. Some of them were saying, look, we can't give out any information because it's a violation of privacy. Okay. But when they were to give numbers to government agencies, they were saying, oh, we don't have to say who. We don't have to say how many people. We could just say, 10 people have it and that's it. We, no contact tracing. There was really no technology, not the definitive technology, but there was no technology behind this. And I just been watching the failure of nursing homes, practically majority of them. And I will argue once again, everything comes back to, the horrible policies of the government, right? that I would argue probably the rich nursing homes, people that probably were multimillionaire in their younger days, and now here they are in their older years, and they're just living off their interest. They were probably doing well, but as always, the nursing homes that probably have majority black and brown people are taking the hit. And in the piece it says fewer than 1% of Americans live in long-term care facilities, but 40% of COVID-19 deaths have occurred there. Just think about that. Fewer than 1%. So when they say stuff like that, it's probably 0.7% of the country live in a nursing home, but 40% of them have been COVID deaths. So I say that to say, if you have parents, you have grandparents in nursing homes, stay in contact with them. See if you have the means and the resources, see if you could get a way that you could talk to them often. I often saw a video, and that's the thing about the media. They make shit all candy and fucking peaches, right? Do candy and peaches go together? I don't know, but follow me, right? Candy and peaches, they would have the camera and showing the loved one talking to their grandparents behind the mirror, and they're like laughing, and it's like, nah, yo, like that's problematic when, they haven't developed a program to see each other, in a COVID safe way. And you're probably thinking to yourself, like, okay, what COVID safe way would that be? I don't know. Have something where, did you have a place where prior that, families could come sit outside and talk to their grandparents and still keep their distance? So I'm definitely going to read this, but I just wanted to bring it to your attention because I'm not kidding. At least once a month, I was like, I got to talk about nursing homes. And I low-key have been looking for someone that either work in a nursing home, organizers that do this, and I could not find it. So just so happened, I came across this magazine, and I was like, wow. So probably when I read it, I will come across somebody who does who do what I talked about. And also, speaking of that COVID situation, just break it down a little. Before the new year, Congress decided that they will pass a bill, but that bill will have to suffice until the new president-elect Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris takes office, because they secured the necessary votes. This is according to CNN.com. They secured the necessary votes through the Electoral College. And when I say this is from CNN.com, this is where I'm reading, but the Electoral College showed that Joe Biden had enough electoral votes, 306 votes, versus the other guy, the incumbent, who will be on his way out, whether he like it or not, even though he is attempting a coup in the United States. If you don't know what a coup is, go look it up on YouTube. You'll learn something. Joe Biden, 306 electoral votes versus the other guy, Donald Trump, 232 electoral votes. And, just to take, from his speech, when he secured those electoral votes, he said, and this is a quote, "In America, politicians don't take power. People grant power to them. The flame of democracy was lit in this nation a long time ago, and we now know nothing, not even a pandemic or abuse of power, can extinguish that flame," unquote. So I bring that up to say Congress has came up with a deal. Congress has come up with a $900 billion deal. And in that deal, what this deal is, it's not as great as the last one, $2 trillion, but the leaders of the Democratic Party the leader of the Democratic Party in the House, head by Nancy Pelosi, Congresswoman from California, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, they all came together and they talked about this deal. Once again, it's not the greatest thing in the world because it's $600 per family versus per taxpayer versus $1,200 back 7 months ago. So this is not the greatest deal, but it's going to lend, I guess, a little help to families that need it. And you hear the hesitance in my voice because, there's somebody somewhere that's saying, yo, at least they're getting $600. Meanwhile, I'm saying I can tell you about I can tell you about basement apartments in New York that $600 does not even cover half of the rent. You understand? So, and get this, up to 1 million people are filing unemployment claims every single week. And members of Congress, which includes Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, who's the senator from Kentucky, they only managed to strike this deal, as I mentioned, with $600 a year, right? Excuse me, $600 that will go. This is a one-time payment. And if you're on unemployment, you're going to get an extra $300. Once again, this, this measure is meant to hold people off because like the day after Christmas, their benefits would have expired, right? So here we are. But I managed to pull up an old clip off of NBC Nightly News, and this is a black woman with 3 children who she lost her job. She had to resign from a job because she feared that she will give COVID to her kids, one of whom has a very pre-existing condition. And I just wanted to play you this and listen to this woman, and you tell me if $600 would do this family any justice. Here goes.
Every day, Kenesha Mayweather inches closer to her breaking point. The only currency she has in abundance right now, faith.
I do a lot of praying. I think about my kids. They need me. I've broke down plenty of nights thinking, what am I going to do?
We first profiled Mayweather back in June when Black Americans were facing their highest unemployment rate in a decade. Mayweather, who lives in Atlanta, felt forced to quit her job in April, afraid of exposing her 3 children to COVID.
I feel sad because I can't provide for my kids like I normally would.
Mayweather's eldest daughter diagnosed with a rare form of cancer, her youngest breathing problems.
If I don't have to take them out, I will not take them out.
And just last week, another devastating blow.
Right now, I just received the email that I was getting my last check.
That additional $600 the federal government had given to unemployed Americans like Mayweather, gone.
Don't know how I'm gonna continue to pay my bills. I'm gonna have to borrow, I guess, and hopefully everything gets paid.
That will not do that family any justice. So this is a complete slap in the face, and this is why I believe voting matters, right? Because it's situations like this where if you had a government that was really representative of the people, they would know that how $600 a month will not do anything. Meanwhile, there's about $1 billion going to build this wall, a racist ideology that this current president came up with to keep people out of the country. Just imagine somebody that is a descendant of German Americans telling other people they can't come into this country. Like, just think about that. You understand? Like, it's the weirdest thing in the world where you have people who are not Native Americans, right, telling other people that they can't come in a country that their ancestors, not necessarily the current president ancestors, but you get what I'm going. But the type that be like, go back to your country. Meanwhile, their ancestors were from like Ireland or some shit. You know what I mean? It's the Italy. It's the weirdest shit. I looked up, this is a little sidebar. I looked up where, what's his name? The governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, his ancestry. And when I say I looked it up, just did a quick search to see where his family is from. It's from Italy. And the way this man behaves is as though he's like a quote unquote pure white, right? And it's like the racism. It's like, once again, I always tell y'all about that article from the Washington Post, How Italians Became White. Read the article, right? And it's the weirdest thing that $1 billion will go to this wall, and you have people who are lining up in bread lines. As I mentioned, 1 million people are unemployed, claiming unemployment every single week. All of that is taking place, right? And there are people who were a little bit upset at the Democratic Party, but guess what? The Democratic Party, they fought, and they said to themselves, you know what? We're going to go ahead and agree to this, and then hopefully in Georgia, where there's a current Senate runoff right now, You can go vote if you live in Georgia. You know any friends, you know any family, you let them know. Go vote. If you want to see this change, go ahead and hand the Democratic Party the majority in Congress and watch things happen. But here's the kicker. A majority in Congress does not, automatically give the Democratic Party the win, because there's a guy in West Virginia, a senator by the name of Joe Manchin. He's problematic. He's a Republican operating as a Democrat because he's in a really racist state, as they call a red state. I'm not saying everybody in the state is racist, but they're not going to vote for a Democrat anytime soon, right? A Democratic senator anytime soon. So you have a situation where, you're up against that. So, it's going to take a little bit of working, and some people get, including myself, frustrated when, Joe Biden says, oh, I have to work with Republicans as well. And maybe he's onto something, because it's like, if he gets the majority, he still have to worry about Joe Manchin siding with the Republican Party, right? So that's problematic in itself. So I just wanted to bring this to you all attention. Some of the things that are in the bill is eviction moratorium. If there's any light at the end of the tunnel, that's it. Because people, imagine, you can't afford, to keep food on the table. So imagine rent. You understand? So at least that's halted for the time being. And it's going to extend until January 31st. Hopefully, Joe Biden comes in with Kamala Harris and they're able to strike a deal, and a long-term deal. This, this piecemeal thing, when you have a family to feed, that shit ain't nothing but high blood pressure, because that's all you're thinking about. You understand? So I just really wanted to mention that. And meanwhile, as they're giving pennies on the dollar to, the people, like actual people, the people who get up, go do the work, you have corporations who are getting an amount of, like, shitloads of money. There's this article over a lengthy article. I got through most of it. America's biggest companies are flourishing during the pandemic and putting thousands of people out of work. They talked about PayPal. They went through all these companies, right? Nike, they went through these companies. NVIDIA, all of them are doing so well. Berkshire Hathaway making, what's the saying? Hand over fist money. And they're letting people off. They even have a cool chart where it says companies that were profitable. Berkshire Hathaway, Cisco, Comcast, AT&T, Citigroup, Oracle, Walmart, Salesforce, Microsoft, Bristol Myers Squibb, right? And I left off the rest because the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the first 7 or 8 I mentioned, they have thousands of employees, and they've laid off thousands of employees, right? Meanwhile, they're making money hand over fist. You understand? So this is problematic when the first two, I like what Cori Bush said, the first two, and Ayanna Pressley, these are survival bills. These are survival. This is not a stimulus bill. This is a survival check. This is not a stimulus check, right? You're giving them $600. Meanwhile, corporations, churches that don't pay any taxes are getting loans. I saw this article from over at the Houston Chronicle where it shows Joel Osteen Lakewood Church got $4.4 million in federal paycheck protection. Paycheck protection plan, right? That program, right? $4.4 million. They don't pay no taxes, right? And they were among the 60 religious institutions in Texas that received more than $1 million. It's like, this is the thing that turns people away that say, yo, what's the point of voting? However, there is a point to vote, because change is not going to happen overnight. It's really not. And I want you to always think about it that way, right? There's always that shadow of white supremacy that we have to knock down. And I meant to play this, maybe the last 2 episodes, but I want you to listen to Michael Eric Dyson. If I played it before, I'm sorry, but I forgot. I didn't know. Okay, right? So listen to Michael Eric Dyson talk about Mitch McConnell, because he's the Senate Majority Leader, and he held this bill up for months while people waited for relief. So without further ado, here is Micah Eric Dyson talking about the shadow of white supremacy. Here goes.
And to proudly stand up and say that he wanted to make Obama a one-term president. This shows us that the real religion in America is whiteness. The real politics in Mitch McConnell's orbit are whiteness. The worship of whiteness at the altar of whiteness, genuflecting before the God of whiteness. And therefore, Donald Trump is the product of a womb that has generated this disfigured person in terms of politics. But Mitch McConnell is part of that womb. Mitch McConnell gives life and breath to the very denunciation of blackness that Donald Trump has been so vehemently denounced for. And look, he then puts forward a blackface representation literally in Daniel Cameron. So there's a ventriloquism going on. Daniel Cameron's mouth is moving. Mitch McConnell's thoughts are coming through his tongue. This is the worst Geppetto we've ever seen. And pulling those strings is one of the worst white supremacist enactments that we've seen in the last 15 years in American politics.
See, so the fight is continuous. This is not something that is going to end overnight. It's about us keep, electing people that will fight for the people. You have Cori Bush, Jamal Bowman, Ayanna Pressley, Pramelia Jayapal. I could keep going. Rashida Tlaib, right? Did I mention AOC? We can keep, Congressman Katie. I can't believe I forgot her name, but I definitely want to get you her name because this lady fights for the people, and you want people like this that are going to stand up. So that's why it's important to keep Katie Porter. She's out of California. People like this will continue to fight for you. And on that same notion, there is Nina Turner. She's a former, I would say. She ran through the gamut, right? Like she's heavy in Ohio politics, and she's running for office, and she's coming through to fight for the people, right? That's where she say her heart is, and there are a lot of people who feel as though like her heart is in someplace else. They're questioning whether she's a Democratic, if she's really for the Democratic Party, but that's neither here nor there. We're going to go by her word, and if you don't know who Nina Turner is, as I mentioned, she's a former she was a former Cleveland City Council on this Cleveland City Council from 2006 to 2008. She's a former Ohio State Senator from 2008 to 2014, and I do know this personally. In I believe it's 2014, she ran for Secretary of State. For the Secretary of State in Ohio. She lost that race to John Husted, I believe it was, and she's been involved ever since. She's a hardcore Bernie Sanders supporter, and that's why some people feel as though, like, are you really for the Democratic Party? But here's a clip from this past week of Tiffany Cross on Cross Connection to MSNBC, just drilling her about that and saying, yo, you say you're for the Democratic Party, but you was challenging Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, saying that, voting for them is like voting for eating a bowl of shit. Her words, exactly, right? In an interview that she did. And, she was saying, like, she was challenging them. And I'm like, okay, take her at her word. But you want people like this, the AOCs along the lines. You will take Nina Turner at her word, saying that she's going to fight for the people. She's going to go ahead and, some people, she supported Jill Stein in 2016. Look, a lot of people fucked up in 2016. You know what I mean? I'm not making excuses for her, but a lot of people thought Hillary Clinton was going to win, and they kind of took a bullshit ass approach, which is kind of fucked up when you look at it. But with that said, here's Nina Turner explaining her position and why she chose to run. Here goes.
Critical about them during the campaign.
In that moment, Tiffany, I was just thinking about the suffering of people. And so sometimes I can, I'm a hell-raising humanitarian, and sometimes I can be a little brazen at times, but no one can question my integrity for standing up for the people. And in that moment, I was just thinking about the suffering of people, the lack of health care, and especially in a pandemic where we know we absolutely need to have universal health care in this country. Folks not having clean water. It was those kinds of things that were swirling in my head and my mind at the time. But that does not mean disagreement, does not mean you can't work with someone. I want to give a very real example of the vice president elect. We all may recall that during a debate, she really called out Vice President Biden's record, particularly saying, I was that girl. But now she is the vice president elect. So that's just one example of how you can have fierce disagreement with somebody. You can go hard with somebody, or ham, as the young people say, and still be able to work with people. And I have a proven record of doing that. Tiffany, I declare today that I am willing and will and can work with anybody that is willing to stand up for the least of these, the poor, the working poor, and the barely middle class in this country. That is why I'm running to serve. And the recalcitrance that you bring up of the Republicans really has been the biggest barrier to the opportunities that we must provide for the people of this great nation.
There she is. She came back to that exact thing, right? The Republican Party. They are on a different course. You understand? And what Nina Turner is saying, she's saying, yo, I was critical of this party, and I'm going to be critical of them because this is her. I'm a Democrat, and we have to challenge the party. You understand? There's this wonderful interview of her over at VanityFair.com, the Black Caucus unified with the Progressive Caucus. Watch out, baby. You know what I mean? And this is Nina Turner, progressive disciple, could make waves in Biden's Congress. And so, and you heard Tiffany kind of doing the like the sarcastic way, but a lot of it come from that, during Hillary Clinton's campaign, she was fervor, right? Very, she was real hardcore for Bernie Sanders. And Bernie Sanders did not endorse Hillary Clinton as quick as he should have. And some argue that kind of, kept home some of his supporters. And, people, look, the 2016 election, there were a million variables to it, but this is just one of it. And as Joe Biden was running for office, and, once again, Nina Turner shows up and, she becomes a little too fervor for people, and they started feeling funny, right? But taking her at face value and what she just said, that she's going to show up for the people, that's the type of people you want. They're going to put corporations to the side and say, I'm going to fight for the people. That's the type of people I'm good with. I want the type of people that will bring me laws like over NBCWashington.com. Virginia law will allow undocumented immigrants to drive legally, right? So with this law, here's what happened. If you're an undocumented immigrant, you can now, apply for a driver privilege card. The requirements are you have to be a non-U.S. citizen who is a resident of Virginia, have reported income from Virginia sources, or claimed as a dependent on a tax return filed in in Virginia in the past 12 months, not have a driving privilege that is currently suspended or revoked. And what this is doing is this says this, right? That no longer will you be an undocumented immigrant, you have a car, and you're going to drive on the road without a license, right? Which in turns will also probably you don't have insurance because, what insurance company is going to give you insurance? You don't have a license, right? Like, there's all these variables. I'm sure, is it out there? I don't know. But now people who are undocumented could safely drive their car and say, yo, you know what? I'm undocumented, but one has nothing to do with the other. Therefore, heaven forbid you get into a car accident, a car crash with someone who is undocumented, they'll have insurance like everybody else, as opposed to they have to hide in the shadows, and if something happens, they're worrying. No, this brings stress to families. We got to stop this notion that, they're undocumented. Undocumented people pay taxes and really see none of the benefits from it because they, by majority, don't file taxes as most American, quote unquote, Americans do, right? So this is a step, and you get these things by electing people who understand the plight of the people. You understand? So that's how we should be looking at this. And it brings me to, staying on Virginia, you have Justin Fairfax, who's currently the lieutenant governor of Virginia, and he will be running for governor of Virginia. And I believe Virginia, you can only do one term. You can't do 2 consecutive terms like a president or whatever. But in Virginia, you can only do one term. So Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax will run for governor. But you have Terry McAuliffe, who was the previous governor, who announced he's going to run. And this is a bygone time. And I'm thinking to myself, like, damn, bro, like, you was already the governor. You want to be the governor? Like, what new ideas are you bringing? Like, you know, from my perspective and the time I've been paying attention to politics, I feel like Virginia is becoming, let's use the words they use, more progressive than ever before, right? And granted, Terry McAuliffe, like, he was governor, like, 4 or 5 years ago, granted. But the demographics is constantly shifting, i.e. Georgia, i.e. Arizona, right? Places that are, you know, turning blue because they no longer align with this, you know, post-Confederacy ideology that everything has to be white. Like, you have a country that's changing, and we need people that look like us, talk like us, walk like us. And I don't necessarily mean that in terms of race, but at the same time, I think you have a populations that saying to themselves, look, you have white men that have been running it for hundreds of years. And here we are, black men being shot, black women being shot and killed in their home, you know, Latino male being shot and killed in his home, a Latina being shot and killed, a Latino being shot and killed, you know, indigenous person being shot, indigenous woman being shot and killed, indigenous man being shot and killed, right? We want to change. And you know how that change come about? Putting people in positions that will put people in positions that look like you. I'm going to say that again. Put people in positions that look like you. And what I mean by that, I'm going to give you an example what I mean by that. You have Debbie Allen, right? She will now, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, has selected her to be the nominee, to be the secretary. Obviously, she has to go through a nomination process once Joe Biden is sworn in, has selected her to be the Secretary of the Interior. And she is indigenous, right? And Deb Haaland tweeted out, a former Secretary of the Interior once proclaimed, it is his goal to civilize, quote, civilize or exterminate, unquote, indigenous people. I'm a living testament to the failure of that horrific ideology. I'm here on the shoulders of my ancestors and all the people who have sacrificed. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, that gave me chills. I was like, wow, black, brown, and indigenous people. I can only think of the movie The Matrix. We have cut through the Matrix, right? Whereas, do you think Thomas Jefferson, who was raping one of his slaves, Sally Hemings, raping her? And I emphasize the rape because we have this ideology about these people that they've whitewashed and made them seem like, oh, they're this great people. They're, you know, Thomas Jefferson cut down the cherry tree, right? But he was raping a woman he owned as property. A little girl that he owned as property. Do you think he envisioned that at some point a black man was going to be president? A black woman was going to be vice president? Deb Haaland is going to be the Secretary of Interior as an indigenous woman? That Cedric Richmond, who is a co-chair to Joe Biden's transition team, do you think he envisioned that? Like Cedric Richmond from Louisiana, co-chair to the transition team, the positions that black and brown people are in. You understand? Like think about this. But you have an entire system that's fighting this change. The Supreme Court, I love how NPR.org did this. They said the title of this article is, the Supreme Court punts census case, giving Trump an iffy chance to alter numbers. I'm going to give you a little background what this was, right? Remember, at the top of the year, I've been preaching, do your census. It's important for your community, funding, all that. From everything from your sidewalk to your plumbing. Believe it or not, right? You know, Flint still does not have clean water, right? Because they had to replace the pipes. We're outside in the street. So you think you have it good. You're like, I got a nice home. Things are fine. But when the city fucks up and fuck your water up, the pipes outside got to get changed. Oh, we don't have the money for that. Why? It wasn't in our budget, right? Because linking to the census, I'm not saying this is the community's fault, but linking it to the census, the funding didn't come in the way it should have. We didn't anticipate this, right? So I've been telling y'all about the census. Americans went out and filled the census, and I think in my community, I think we did like 69%. That's awesome. I wish it could be 90. I wish it could be 100, but I'll shoot for 90, right? So people went out, communities, as they say, of color, did organizing and went to spoke to. So in other words, if you're undocumented and you don't want to fill that out because you feel they're going to trace it back to you and come deport you, right? What happened is people who do the work in organizations that could connect with these people, be it somebody from Jamaica, be it somebody from Trinidad, be it somebody from Somalia, be it somebody from Dominican Republic, they connected with these people and said, we promise you this won't happen. Can you fill this out? So some obliged. I don't know this for a fact, but I can imagine not everybody's like, but when you have organizations that work with people on the ground, they trust them, right? So imagine thousands of people say, I'll do this. Now, what the Trump administration said is this. They were like, we don't want to count the undocumented immigrants because that doesn't count. They don't count. So we want to take everyone out who's undocumented, and we only want to count everybody that's a citizen. However, in the Constitution, that thing they created, it says you have to count every person. You understand? Now, in the census, mandated by Article 1, Section 2 of the United States Congress, it says, representative and direct taxes shall be apportioned among several states. Right? Apportioned among several states. I can keep going, but we'll start there. Apportioned among several states. Right? According to their respective numbers. Right? So we keep going there. And nowhere does it say anything about citizens. Nowhere. This is something that Donald Trump, a white nationalist at this point, a white supremacist at this point, he sees and he's like, oh, I only want to count the documented immigrants. So this ends up going to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court comes back and says, you know what, state, because the states brought this lawsuit, you haven't proved that there's a way for this administration to do it. So we're going to kick it back until you come back with evidence. Something to that effect, right? Just to break it down in layman's terms, right? That's how they came back and said it. They said, come back when you have the evidence, right? So the court said it's quote unquote premature to rule on the case. This is according to MPI. Premature, quote unquote, premature to rule on the case right now because it is, quote, riddled with contingencies and speculations, unquote. Basically, what they're saying there is this. You're assuming that they're trying not to count the undocumented immigrants. Come back when you have proof, right? And it's things like this we have to continue to fight. We have to continue to vote. Otherwise, we're going to be back here again, right? But let's celebrate the good things. Like Rashida Jones, not the actress, not Quincy Jones' daughter, as the article said, right? She will be the president, the next president of MSNBC News, and the first black woman to helm a cable news network. People went on to say, yo, this is great. This woman's 39 years old. When I read that, I was like, God damn, 39, and she's a boss, right? Rick Ross is like, she's a boss, right? So she, 39 years old, Mrs. Jones will be she will be the president of MSNBC. And with this, you have things that are happening already over there. As I mentioned, you have Tiffany Cross, Jonathan Capehart, Joanne Reed. You have Ayman Mohyeldin, right? You have all these people, black and brown people, who are showing up and, who are showing up and showing out, if you will. Right? So it's just, I don't know. I guess the words I was looking for, she's showing up and she will be great, but we know if she made it this far in her life at 39 years old, she's going to be awesome. There's nothing there. I just wanted to mention that. I'm not even going to elaborate any more than that. One of my favorite stories, and I have to mention this, is that, and I'm making it super short because I want to talk about the most important thing that happened this past week. It's the most important thing that we should know about. I'm going to be super quick with this. I'm going to try to do this like within a minute. So here's what's happening. Apple is coming out with a software in 2021. And this software will tell you, you'll update it to your phone, your iPhones, your iPads, your MacBooks, whatever, right? Your iMacs. When they push that update to your phone, what will happen after you do the update? You will now be able to know what apps are tracking you. So the example over at 9to5mac.com used is allow, quote unquote, Facebook to track your activity across other companies' apps and websites. And you now have the opportunity to say, ask app not to track or allow them to track you, right? If you know me, I completely hate I hate Facebook. I completely hate them. Cannot stand them. I think it's the worst thing that's ever happened to technology. I don't know what they do. If anyone can tell me what they do, I will be more than happy to hear you tell me what they do. Tell me, what do Facebook do? They do nothing. You do everything, right? And Facebook is saying, this is not fair. I want to be able to track people, and you're going to kill the user's experience with us. Otherwise known as, we want to be able to track them and sell their information. Apple said, and I'm about to curse, Apple said, no, fuck you. Go track other people, but you won't track anybody that's using our phone because privacy is important to us. Kiss our ass, and we're going to do it anyway. See me in court, motherfuckers. That's what they said. So much I hate those motherfuckers. I do. I can't stand it. I feel like if I was going to be a rapper and I was going to make a song, I will make a song about Facebook, and it will have that energy of Tupac and Hit 'Em Up. First off, fuck the website you claim. You track people. You encourage racism. You took Russian money. I don't know. Does that sound like I could be a rapper? I don't know. It just I don't know. But the most important story, ladies and gentlemen, this is super important, right? This is the most important thing. This will follow you for years to come. And what I'm talking about here, I'll play for you. Here goes.
The hacks into the Commerce and Treasury departments are believed to be led by the Russian government, and they appear to be related to a recently disclosed hack on prominent U.S. cybersecurity firm FireEye. FireEye said Sunday it believed hackers were able to gain access to numerous public and private organizations around the world by slipping malware into software developed by SolarWinds, an IT management company. SolarWinds products are used by hundreds of thousands of organizations worldwide, including the military, the CDC, major telecommunications companies, as well as Viacom CBS. In a statement, the company's CEO said it is cooperating with the FBI, the intelligence community, and law enforcement. The Washington Post reported the Russia-affiliated hacking group known as Cozy Bear breached email systems in some cases. The group has direct ties to Russian intelligence and was allegedly behind hacking attacks against the Democratic National Committee in 2015. And in July, the U.S., Britain, and Canada accused Cozy Bear of attempting to steal coronavirus vaccine research.
Let me tell you how bad this is, right? They kind of jumped over all the different places and companies and agencies that got hacked. Ladies and gentlemen, the Department of Air Force got hacked, right? Ladies and gentlemen, the Department of Army got hacked. The Department of State got hacked, right? We could go through all of these places that got hacked. these agencies, and one of them was like, what's this? The embassy, the U.S. embassy got hacked. All these places, CDC, AT&T, Sprint, TIM, KT, Viacom, CBS, Comcast, Cablevision, they kind of jumped over it. But this is problematic because here's the thing. All those places I mentioned, you have some sort of association with those places, whether, excuse me, I hit the mic. Whether you work there, whether they host your cable bill, they're the subscriber for your cable. So that means all your information is with this company, right? And that's problematic because, as I mentioned, all your information is there. And this could be around for the longest time, right? And I saw this and I was like, first off, we have, remember early in the year, Russia put out bounties on U.S. soldiers, and the current president said nothing about it. Nothing, absolutely nothing. He said not a word. Now you have, according to Bloomberg, I mentioned those companies, but over at Bloomberg, they said at least 200 organizations, including government agencies and companies around the world, have been hacked as part of a suspected Russian cyber attack that implanted malicious code into a widely used software program. Think about that. Over 200 companies. And by the way, Bloomberg site is real slow. It's taking forever to come up. Right? 200 companies. That means your information is all out there. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not playing. Elect people that will understand what you mean. The Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, he's been very weak. I would argue one of the weakest Secretary of State in my lifetime. The weakest, right? But he said, quote, "We can say pretty clearly that it was the Russians that engaged in this activity." Over 200 organizations, including, as I mentioned, the State Department, Department of Defense, and agencies within the Department of Energy. Because here's the thing, you have the Department of Energies, and all these agencies have subsidiary agencies or bureaus, if you will. This is problematic. This is the most important thing that's happened this week. And a sitting president attempting a coup. Absolutely problematic. I wanted to bring it to your attention. Okay, you see it there. Let's get to the topic. This may not be too long. I'm not going to try to be all prophetic and, you know what I mean? I'm not going to try to be a prophet on this or anything like that. But, just keep it short. But I'll say this before I begin. Yo, if you roll with me all this year, I thank you very much. I appreciate you. Even if you come on here, you listen to for 30 seconds. If you tapped into one episode and you tapped out. If you just tap in every now and again, I appreciate you. Thank you very much. I get to share my passion. This is something I like to do. I like to share with the hip hop generation because I know we're left out, right? I know we don't fit the mold of, what politicians look like. And sometimes we don't understand it. So I try to do it in a way that my generation will understand and want to listen and want to talk about it. And this is why I have this. And actually, in saying this to you, this is going to be one of the 5 things I learned. So here it goes. And I believe this is in no particular order. Only one of them will be in a particular order. And I think that will be the last one. I'll save the last one. So what's one thing I learned this year? One of the 5 things. One of 5. No, how do I say it? Number 1 of 5 things I learned this year. Sorry about that. Okay, guess what? I learned how to cook this year. Like, I'm not talking about like oatmeal. Like, I learned how to put together a meal. This year, thanks to a pandemic, I can fucking cook. Shout out to me. Like, yo, I know how to season chicken. I know how to make salmon cake. I know how to make baked chicken. Like, I'm excited about this. I know how to make barbecue chicken. I know how to do broccoli. I know how to do potatoes. I know how to cut the potatoes. I learned how to make an omelet, you know what I mean? And how to say it right instead of saying omelet, you know what I'm saying? Omelet, you know what I mean? I learned how to do that. I learned, just put put whatever I want inside the omelet. You know what I mean? Whether it be like a turkey sausage, a cheese, whatever I want, tomatoes. I learned all of that. I learned how to cook. It's one of the things that I thought I would never learn to do. I just felt as though like, yo, kitchen wasn't my thing. I didn't have the attention span for it. But I learned. It was awesome. I like it. I like doing it. It feels cool. I used to think that cooking takes forever. But once I learned how to cook, I realized that, you know, there are some things that can take forever. Don't get it twisted. There are things that will have you in there forever. But that's one of the things that I learned that, wow, you know, sometimes I go in, I'm in there for an hour, don't even realize it, in and out, 20 minutes, depend on what you're cooking. Let's see. Number 2. What's the number? I've learned not to volunteer advice. That's the number 2 things I've learned. Now, this is me. I've learned not to volunteer advice. And here's what I mean by that. Let's say you have a friend, a coworker, you know, you say to them, they come to you and they say, guess what? I'm going to buy a Honda Accord. I'm not picking a Honda Accord. Maybe one day Honda Accord would like to sponsor the podcast. Politics on My Mind, the only hip hop podcast the only political podcast for the hip hop generation. I got tongue tied. Now Honda is like, nope, we're not going to sponsor you. Right? So they say to you, I'm going to buy a Honda Accord. And you say to that friend, coworker, whomever, cousin, sibling, whomever, you say, you know what? I've had 4 Honda Accords. Now that's maybe a little too, too much. Let's do 2. I've had 2 Honda Accords, and the first one I had issues with it. XYZ happened. The second one I had issues with it, and XYZ happened. Out of those 2 times, the XYZ were the same thing. You tell them that, and they say to you, oh, nah, I don't got to worry about that because my uncle is a mechanic. And you're thinking to yourself, wake the fuck up. The fact that your uncle is a mechanic, right? If it's your sibling, it's our uncle, right? But let's say it's your friend or your coworker. Well, for some people, that's one and the same. For me, it's really not. It's my coworker. Anyway, you're thinking to yourself, wait, but it doesn't change the fact that you're going to have these issues. Oh, nah, it's all good. My uncle, you know, he'll do it for free. She'll do it for free. Okay. My mom said, you know, anything that happened with the car, she'll give me the money to fix it. So I don't have to worry about that. Damn, but you missed the whole point I was trying to tell you. I'm telling you that if you buy the car, you're going to have XYZ issues with it. They missed the whole point. I've learned, keep that shit to yourself. And it's super hard for me because I'm a sharing information kind of person. Like, I like to tell people shit like, yo, guess what? Da-da-da-da-da. That's me. But I've learned I have to shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? Just like, shut the fuck up. Let them find out. Let them come to you and say, why you ain't tell me you own 2 Honda Accords? And then you look at them like, motherfucker, if I told you that shit, you still wouldn't have listened. You know what I mean? Like, and then they're going to hit you with like, yeah, I would have. No, you would have. The fact that you said, yeah, I would have, shows you would not have, right? So that's what I said. Learn how to cook. Number 2, don't volunteer information. Number 3, I've learned, remove toxic people out of your life, right? And I'm not just talking about your friend, your coworker, your neighbor. This is including family. Remove them out of your life. I was watching some political show, and a person said about people stealing your joy. And I was like, I like that. Remove people from your life that will steal your joy. Because, ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you this. A punch you can feel. You recognize you've been punched. You know, Mike Tyson has that saying, what he says, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face, right? So you can feel that it happened instantaneously, and you're like, wow, this person punched me. But, you know, say that death by 1,000 cuts, right? People who are toxic in your life, people who steal your joy in your life, it's death by 1,000 cuts. They take the blade, they give you a little tiny cut. Another little tiny cut. Another little tiny cut. Before you know it, you have cuts all over your body, metaphorically, and now this person has brought you a sadness, up on you, and you're just like, yo, what's going on here? Like, why do I feel like this? And you don't know why. But little do you know, this person is, you don't know it's this person is the reason. You understand? So remove toxic people from your life. Otherwise, you find yourself with 1,000 cuts, unhappy, and they're living their life. Now, when I say this is what I've learned, I've had to learn it because sometimes I say to myself, you know what? That person really doesn't bother me, right? But in fact, when you go have a conversation with them, you get riled up. So they do bother you because you're riled up, right? You're like, oh, in it. And you walk away. You're like, man, fuck that person. Then you see them again and you get riled up. Walk away. Like, fuck that person. It's like, no, the best thing is to do, don't have conversations with that person if you know their intention is to get you riled up, as opposed to have a serious intellectual conversation. If you want to joke, you joke. If you want to just be ignorant with them, be ignorant with them. You know what I mean? Just shoot the bullshit. That's fine. But if they're going to cause you to, when you walk away, you're just like, what the fuck? Why do I talk to that person? Get rid of them. That simple. There's nothing, nothing will change in your life. I promise you. Do it. You're going to feel good about it. As I always do. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I have no issue. Like, I'm the type of person like this. Look, if you want to be cool with me today, you know what I mean? And we all cool and shit today. You know, we're laughing today and we're hanging out and you're checking for me. And then tomorrow I don't see you anymore. The day after that, I lost nothing because it tells me more about you. And, you know, some people say to me when I be like, I have no friends, you know, people be like, they cringe at that. But in reality is, you know what I mean? In reality is that you're not going to feel a way about that if you're a friend, right? And if that, you know, if that person jumps in and out of your life, right? I don't know, it could be a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a sister, a cousin, a coworker, you know, whomever. This is not directed at anyone specifically because these people come in all shapes and forms. You understand? It could be your coworker, somebody that every day you go talk to them and you're just like, man, why do I have to? I'm going to give you an example. Better get an example. I had a coworker that he came to me and just unloaded just racist shit. Like back in majority of this shit, Donald Trump said just ladies and gentlemen, I had to step outside my office building. I got so worked up. I didn't say a word. I was just standing there. I was like, you know what? If I say something, it's not going to be nice, right? And it wasn't like I'm getting angry, I want to punch him, but it was like, yo, man, what the fuck is wrong with you, yo? Like, you know what I mean? Your skin is brown, you got an accent, and you're over here just repeating racist shit. You sound dumb as a motherfucker. And I said, yo, Troy, instead of doing that, just end the conversation, go outside, get some fresh air, and you'll be good. That's what I'm talking about. Remove that person. Guess what? I see that person now. Hey, Troy, what's up? Give them a little nod, keep it pushing. When I see they look like they're about to talk, I'm like, okay, I'm going to keep, I just keep walking, give the funny body language, and that's it. How was your weekend? Good. Keep it walking. Don't say nothing, right? Because it's coworkers, you have to be cordial, right? You don't have to, but it's nice to be. So that's the type of person I am. I lose nothing because if you meant something, you will always mean something, right? And vice versa. So there's that. Okay, the number 4 thing I learned this year is stop talking politics with everyone. Because it's my passion, I tend to go around people and I just start bringing it up. And I've realized that I will bring it up. I'll be the only one talking about it. And sometimes people have that look that look like they're forced into talking about it because they know I talk about it. So now I've decided, let other people bring it up. And if they ask a question, answer the question. Be very brief in the question, right? In the answer. Be very brief. If they ask you, so what do you think of Joe Biden? Yeah, so far so good. And you wait for them to follow up. They have another question because once again, it's almost going back to that. I'm not saying that these people are toxic, but it's that mentality of like, they don't really want to talk to you. And for me, anyone knows me, like I hate small talk. And I tell people, don't talk to me. Don't small talk me because I'm a talker. You may be like, oh, let me small talk him. You're going to get stuck in a conversation because I like to talk, right? I'm a talker. That's what the fuck I do. I talk, you know what I mean? So now, and what you think of Joe Biden? He's cool. It's so far so good. Let them follow up. If they want to know more, let them offer more. Let them show you, and this probably could apply to anything. Let them show you that they are well versed, that they read, they understand politics in a way you understand it, versus they say one thing, you go off, they make a dumbass comment, and then you find yourself being a very, find yourself being an erudite, right? That's a word. I like that word. Like, I'm an erudite, right? And ERUHDITE. And in case anybody want to go look the word up. But yeah, you find yourself, you going on because you read the book and you follow policy, and here they are just making one little comment like, what about Joe Biden in 1994 voting crime bill? And you're just like, okay, you know what I mean? I've learned to let that person just talk. And, if you want to chime in, you chime in. Excuse me, ERUDITE. I said H. I think I said H, right? If they want to chime in, if they want to chime in and give their 2 cents, they chime in and give their 2 cents. But we need to, I guess this comes down to, I need to be having conversations about politics with people who spend as much time or, as much time as I spend, or if, half the time, either half or as much time as I spend. You don't want to talk politics with someone that's not voting, have their mind made up, have all these, lies and falsehoods stuck in their head. And here you are, you read books. Here you are, you actually tap in the shows. You watch C-SPAN. Like, who the fuck watches C-SPAN? Like, what black man in his late 30s? I'm saying this in a funny way. I'm not saying black men don't watch C-SPAN. Just stick with the joke. But what black man in his late 30s is sitting there watching C-SPAN? I be having a TV fucking on a C-SPAN, right? Having those crazy fucking callers calling in with their weird ass comments. They be weird as fuck, right? But you're doing all this. You're putting in 8 hours a day. As you're at work, you have your TV on. C-SPAN is on. It's on mute. And if you see something interesting, you unmute it. Then you mute your other political talk show you're listening to on satellite radio. You mute that. During your lunchtime, you read your book for 15 minutes. You come back, and before you start work, you read a couple articles for 15 minutes. You're putting in the work, and they're putting in none, and they want to have a conversation. And here you are. You're talking, and they're just looking at you and just saying dumb shit. And then you realize, I'm fucking wasting my time, right? And there's proof in this. I'll say this first, right? I went to the library. I went to go pick up a book, and they stuck a receipt in there, like, what kind of book, what the book I have. And the coolest thing, and this is why I say this, you're wasting your time talking with people that don't put in half or if not as much work as you do. It said, the book I received, it said, you just saved $27.99 by using your library card. You have saved $160.89 this past year, and $1,042.31 since you began using the library, right? Library. And like, I thought that was the coolest shit in the world. By the way, the only reason I've used $160.89 is because for most of the year I thought the library was closed. But it wasn't. They were like doing curbside pickup. I didn't know that for like maybe a month or two. But then I just so happened to saw that they were open. I was like, oh, wow, to see that they were open. But you end up wasting your time. And the proof in all of this is this. This is the longest topic I've spent on. What do I tell you? I go on and on about politics. How to cook? Don't volunteer information. Remove toxic people. I didn't spend that much time. But you saw what I did with politics, right? That's my point. The number 5 and possibly the number 1 thing that I learned this year. The 5, this is one of the 5 things, possibly the number 1 5 things I've learned this year is this. Drum roll. Voting matters. I'll say it again. Voting matters. One more time for the people in the back or people that was talking to you while you were listening to this and you couldn't hear what I said. Voting matters. Ladies and gentlemen, I've talked about this book for at least the past 3 episodes. Hitler's American Model. That book and the other book I read, How Fascism Worked by Jason Stanley, right? Those two books has shown me what we dodged in this country. Hitler's American Model, The United States and the Making of Nazi Race Law by James Whitman. Those two books have shown me what we dodged by not re-electing Donald Trump. When I say we, I mean this country. Me, I voted for Joe Biden, Kamala Harris. I wanted a black woman in the White House. As far as I'm concerned, they should be a person, a black person, a brown person, an indigenous person in the White House in every election moving forward. That's how I view things, right? But this country and the people who would have continued to suffer even worse under Donald Trump had he been elected, we dodged the bullet. This man is a fascist. He's a racist. He's a white nationalist. We dodged the bullet. Voting matters. The things that are happening now showed me that voting matters, right? He knows he's out of office. He knows it, but he's attempting a coup. But Joe Biden and Kamala Harris is sitting right there waiting to get in to let shit happen and say, look, if racist white nationalist Mitch McConnell won't work with us, we're going to have to find people that's going to work with us with it, within the system. But we're going to change the system. This is what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris' intention is. We're going to change the system so it benefits the people who are caused the more pain. Like Ayanna Pressley says, the people who suffers the most pain should be at the table making the decisions. I think I paraphrased that, right? Voting matters. Right now as I'm speaking to you, not right now when you hear it, but Monday, December 21st, 2020, Kamala Harris is in Georgia. Why? Because you have Jon Ossoff, who's running against David Perdue. I call him David inside David. Why? Because he's been insider trading, which is illegal, which is a federal crime. Allegedly, he's been doing it. Like I say, allegedly to save myself. Insider David, right? Allegedly has been using his influence as a senator to trade his own stocks. It's illegal. Jon Ossoff is running against David Perdue. Kamala Harris goes down to Georgia to campaign for him and said, this is important. Our future's on the line. The Joe Biden Harris, Kamala Harris ticket you voted for this year in November, if you want the agenda to keep going, vote Jon Ossoff. She's down there double campaigning. Raphael Warnock is running for senator. Jon Ossoff is running for senator as well on the Democratic side. Raphael Warnock, the Democratic candidate running for Senate, is running against Kelly Loeffler. I call her Insider Kelly because she's been allegedly using her influence as a senator to trade her own stocks. It's illegal. It's a federal crime. So Insider Kelly has no platform. She just keep calling him Raphael Warnock radical. It's stupid. She has nothing to give. Nothing. My understanding is she has one of the biggest homes in the area where she lives. Her husband is the CEO of NASDAQ. How does she connect with people who are getting $600 versus a reverend of a church that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was the pastor of? Raphael Warnock, he's the reverend at that church. Think about that. Remember earlier I said we broke the matrix? Think about that. Like, I don't want to speak for Dr. King because I'm sure he envisioned that. But to think that someone from his church could possibly be the senator from a state he was born and raised in. Like, think about that. You understand? Voting matters. And it will matter even more if Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff win those Senate seats in Georgia. Call a friend. Call a foe if it's safe to do so. Make up with them, an ex, if it's safe to do so. Make up with them. Say, hey, we haven't spoken in a long time. Are you registered to vote in Georgia? That's great. Can you go vote before the January 5th runoff? And can you support Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff? It'll be great. Voting matters. It does. Stay engaged. Right? And I hope you enjoyed this episode as you do every single episode. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to shout out to everyone who's been a guest this year on Politics on My Mind. I really appreciate it. I really get to sit here and share my passion with anyone who's listening. We know it's been a rocky year. We know this. But I hope you tapped in. I hope you got something out of every episode, even if it's one little small gem you got out of here. It's been a tough year. And I hope I was able to take you through this year like I've done for the last almost 5 years. It's my passion. I want you to be more engaged in your community. I want you to be able to understand politics in a way that, other people may not be explaining it to you. And I really do hope you enjoy it. But shout out to everyone who came on this podcast. They really don't have to, because I'm not at HBO, MSNBC, CNN. So shout out to Isaiah James. He was running for Congress in my district where I grew up in New York against I can't forget, Yvette Clarke, who her mom was there. She's there. He did that, right? Unsuccessfully, but he's not gone. He's going to come back. Shout out to Cynthia DeVries. She's basically, if your kids, nieces, nephews are going to college, she shows them the way, tell them what to fill out, how to write their papers. I think it was an awesome thing. And I said this to her, I wish I had that when I was in school, because I didn't have nobody to share that with me. I only knew about college like 6 months before I was graduating high school, right? If I had her around, it would have been awesome. I felt like I would have known everything, know where to go for college, and I would have been prepared, right? Shout out to PG Changemakers. PG Changemakers on Twitter. Amity Pope, Ashanti McKenzie, Crystal Ryder. I actually do, now I do community work with them. They're in them streets. I'm in them streets. I volunteer with their organization from time to time in the community events they do. I'm not part of the organization. I'm a one-man army, a son. Never been taken out. Yo, Brooklyn, I keep on looking out, right? Special shout out to Drake Smith and Nina Jackson. I appreciate y'all for coming on, because you know why? Y'all some up-and-comers. I see great things happening for y'all, and everything that you're doing, continue to do it. Shout out to Sankofa Travel Her. At Sankofa, I know she has a name. I know she does, but she goes by Sankofa Travel HR on Twitter. You know what I mean? Thank you for coming out. Thank you for being a guest. I thank you for sharing your journey as a Black History traveler. You go around the country. I really thank you, Tammy Gibson, SankofaTravelHer.com. Thank you. I appreciate it. Also, shout out to Tanair Kane. I heard her speaking at a Black woman rally that I was that I helped put on. I heard her speak, and I was like, I gotta have this woman on. I love what she was doing. So thank you, every last one of you. I appreciate it again. Hopefully I'm gonna keep bringing a ruckus in 2021. I'm gonna have to get some more guests. I think this is the most guests I've had on this show, on this podcast, since I've been doing the podcast. How cool is that? Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I wish everyone a healthy, safe holiday, and I hope you get everything that you ever hope for, everything you ever wish for, everything that you want. Put it in the universe. Say it in the air. If you want something, say it out loud. Don't be afraid to share your dreams. I got that from Simone Sanders and Michael Keegan. I heard them say it. I'm going to give you a quick story. I heard them say it, and that was a Saturday. I was doing my 5-mile run. I ran to the park, and I screamed out loud what I wanted. Nobody was around. I said, I want it, and I said it. And I just got it out. Just put it into the universe. I hope you get all of that next year and every year beyond that. Remain safe and healthy. Wear your mask. Wash your hand. Keep your distance 6 feet. Hip Hop Generation, we out.
I'm not saying I'm going to rule the world or I'm going to change the world, but I guarantee that I will spark the brain that will change the world. And that's our job, is to spark somebody else watching us.